Welcome back to my channel. Now this is pretty well where we left the Varyag last time, except I've started the painting process on those masts and they're starting to look rather nice in place there. But what we're going to do in this video is some more brass. So let's get on with it. I had this set for the grass spay. They were the spare ones in the kit actually. And those were the ones actually I was thinking of using, not the ones I showed you last time, because they were the specials that I got Mark 1, which actually are all the correct lengths. If you can get PE that's already cut to all the correct lengths, your life is so much easier. So that's good. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you what you have to do when you have to cut your own. Now, these unfortunately have 4 runs in them. It's probably really hard to see there. 4 runs. But the with the bottom run sitting basically on the deck. But that doesn't actually work for the Varyag. All of its rails, well basically the lower rails anyway, are 3 runs with one on the deck, and the very, very top little pieces are 2. And this is confirmed in the research photos that I found. And this is the dedicated piece of fret that came with the Zvezda kit. Well, actually no, it came with wood hunter, didn't it? I'm talking through my arse as usual. This is the dedicated piece of photo etch that came with the wood deck, which was really nice because we had to cut off various parts of the deck. I'll pop a picture up here in case you haven't seen that that part of the video. Anyhow, because we had to cut off those little pieces of deck to put the wood veneer in, those little plastic rails, we've got photo etch rails put in. So they're okay. Now, there's a problem in that none of these actually measured to length. They've just given you a whole lot of rails and go, figure it out. So we'll get onto that shortly. Now, because my grass spee rails don't match, and because I haven't bothered to buy the full Edward PE set for this, I've got lots of spare rails sort of lying around in my rail stash. Actually, I collect them. Whenever on special, I just grab some railings. So I actually have some Japanese railings here, but lo and behold, these ones down here are both level and 3 run and spaced just right. They're so close to the scale drawings that I've seen that they are going to be perfect. Again, they're not dedicated, they're just runs, and we've got to figure it all out. So what we're going to do now is we'll look at that. How do you figure out how the railings are going to fit around all the bits and pieces? Luckily, with this with the Varyag build, it's not that complicated. So let's get on with that. So here's a deck at the bow of the ship here. This is over the bridge. Now, I probably could have done this one actually when I assembled all this. There was not that many greebles to go in. And often I would do that, especially it's sort of easier sometimes to put the deck railing on, paint the whole part, especially when they're all going to be grey and you're only hairy brushing in maybe the deck colour. But because we had the wood veneer, I felt that the wood veneer will have to go on first, and then basically the assembly was done, and we just haven't done the railings until now. But that's okay. Now I would probably move my mast out. That's still only a dry fit, so we'll just pop him out, put him somewhere safe. We'll talk about the masts later. They're all painted up, looking very nice. Now, to do it this way, you're going to need somewhere to measure things, and I've got one of these handy little things. This one on some little special promotion from some hobby shop overseas. I don't even know who it was. It was like one of these things, like this Facebook page and we'll send you it. Maybe it's Hobby Elements. Don't know. Whoever they are, thank you. Because they did. I didn't believe it. They actually sent it to me in the mail. And it is there's not much to it, but this sort of thing is pretty handy because now we can take some measurements. So using our little calipers, I can get that size. So that's basically now getting my rule. Okay, so it's 10.5 mil, but we're going to have to allow for the little trough around the edge. So we'll call that one 10 mil for now. Okay, I'm making some notes. And then I'm going to need this length across here. I think that's about it. We don't be too worried at this stage, and I'll show you why, because this is the Harry Houdini, you can cock it up and it'll be okay method. All right, so we're looking at 15 mil there. All right, again, it's just over. We want to go just under because we want to be less. At least that's the theory to start with. So we're looking at 10 by 15. So that's going to give us the back, the two sides. Now the front piece here is going to be curved. So again, it would be 10, but it's going to curve out a bit. So it's going to have to be a 10 plus. So we're going to have to factor that in. Now, rather than going straight in and chopping up our rails and then going, oh bugger, it doesn't fit, I'm going to make a paper template first. So I'm going to measure this now out on paper, and we'll then sort of place that on there, see how it goes. Now I'm going to use some stiff paper because this photo etch has got a little bit of strength to it. So I've actually got some paper that's not quite thick card, not quite thin paper. And so I'm going to measure up on that now and create a little former to see if my former fits the area we want to go. And that'll basically be the way that I'll figure this out. If my former fits, we're ready to go. If it's too big, I'll have to trim it back. If it's too small, I'll have to make another one slightly larger. I will fiddle and faff with the former until I get it right. Now, it doesn't take that long. It sounds like it's a little process. But honestly, if you do it with the photo etch and get it wrong, well, if it's too big, you can at least trim it back to smaller. But if it's too small, you have to throw that bit of photo etch away and start again, which is a waste. And you may need all the photo etch you've got just to complete the model. So let's make that paper former. Here's my piece of paper card, and it just so happens this is the same thickness as the PE. Oh, can you hear the birds today? They're all singing outside. Well, they're singing every day. People often comment in my videos they hear the bird song. So to me, it's happening all the time, so I kind of miss it, but I hear them when the videos play back when I check them. Anyhow, they'll be in the background. That's my musical accompaniment. This card is about the same thing as the PE, and that is what I need to do this, because when you bend edges, you adjust lengths, because obviously there'll be a curve. As tight as you think you're going to do, but as tight as you think you're going to do that edge, there'll be a curve, and therefore that will either absorb or add to your lengths because you've got a curve built in there. So what I'm going to need is a length. My former length needs to be 40 plus whatever the front piece is, which is going to be plus 10. We don't know yet. So measuring 40, I'm going to need a length of 15 for one side. I'm going to need that 10 and then the 15. Okay, then I need 10 plus. I'll just put a wavy line there. Now they're not going to be very tall, but for the sake of me being able to actually do this, I'm going to make it a bit taller. So, because otherwise I can't tell what's going on. So again, I'll need the 15 mark, the 10 mark, 15 mark. I'll kind of work backwards there, okay? You with me? So there's 15 for a side, there's 10 for a back, there's 15 for a side. And then I've got a piece that's longer than 10. I don't know. So, getting out my knife. Now, you need to be as accurate as possible doing this. But the beauty is, if it doesn't fit, the former can be adjusted. And then it's going to be used as a template. Alright, so that to there. And we don't know how big this is yet. It's going to be less than that. Okay, so a bit stiffer than paper this. So there's our little former. And so they take seconds to make. So what we'll do now is we're going to fold our former on the lines that we know, and then we can make that up and see how much we need for the curve. First we'll see if our lengths and our measuring has actually succeeded. So measuring off those lengths there, get underneath that, that should be correct. So that's that one, and measuring off there. I mean, I could use my actual folding tool at this point, really, if I was bothering to do this properly. Maybe I'll reshoot this video and do it with the folding tool. We'll see. It should work this way as well. We're only just doing basic fold. I've got my measuring points. Do you know what I mean by the folding tool? I'll get it out. Hang on. This is probably what I should have been doing the folds with, which is what we're going to do the folds with when we use the brass. So if you've never seen one of these, I'm assuming you know this. Not everybody knows everything. This is a very useful little device because it allows you to clamp down on photo etch, and then it has edges and shapes that you can bend and fold against. So it's very handy for doing all this sort of stuff. And you've got a razor blade, which be very careful with. Practice safe modelling. Never ever use this when you have been doing too much photo etch or doing track links and you're suicidal. No, always be careful with your razor blade. So what I should have done, if we're doing it properly, is you pop it into the into here. You then tighten the little knob, okay, and then you take your razor blade, you go underneath, and you bend your fold. It gives a really sharp fold. So that's how you do it. That's how I should have done it, but as usual, Harry Houdini cheats. Okay, so here's our little formed shape. And get some right angles happening. Okay, might need some tweezers at this point, Harry Houdini. Oh, aren't you organised? Alright, I've found my tweezers and I have roughly set up my my shape. Now, interestingly, I had a look at that curve and I thought, gee, that looks familiar. And the curve on the front of the bridge is pretty damn close to the curve of my tweezers. So that's a good guesstimate to start with, and that allowed me to guess basically the shape. So, is that going to fit? I think I've just about winged it. Let's have a look. Is it not overlapping there? No. It's not overlapping there? No. Oops, we bumped it. Not overlapping there. Let's just slide forward a bit. It's lost its square. It's sticking proud a little bit at the front here. So, although I have got this out of square, so we'll go back, give it a bit of a twist. I know it's highly accurate, all this. So, again, the trick is that it shouldn't be bigger than the base. That's what I'm looking for. Is it sitting just inside? It's got to go back ever so slightly. Okay. Having a look, that fits. Now it's slightly too big at the bow. Okay, so although that could go back a 15th. And the beauty of what I'm doing here is I have got time to play with my bit of paper. And if you've seen a lot of my videos, I play around with paper and things, all kinds of weird stuff, because they allow you to do things without wasting expensive material. So my paper, my little paper former here, shows me that that is very close to the shape I want. But there's just a little bit too much at the bow. I'd say I've got about 1 millimetre too much. So now I'll adjust that. So simply I can pull my little former apart, and I need a little pencil mark there so I know, was that my join? So I've made a little pencil mark in there, so that what I'm going to do now is going to make it just a little bit tighter. So if that's where I was before, I want to go just past that. And it's best if you do this level on the mat, because so that's where it was, that's where it needs to go. Oh, this is all highly accurate, isn't it? So we're thinking there. Okay, again, we're still at the fitting stage. We haven't committed to an exact shape. So I'll do it around this way now. So now, with that sitting on there, try and get it as square as I can. Okay, oh, that is looking so much better. In fact, I think I've got it because, well, I know the sides are correct. I know the back's right. That's all working. The front now is just sitting level with the bridge, and I've got a little play back there. I've got it, okay? So it might have taken 2 or 3 goes, but I've managed to do it. I've just winged it. Careful measuring to start with, and also being able to use something to form that curve, although it's not perfect, I know, but it's close enough. It will be perfect when we put the PE on. Okay, I've now got a shape. I've got an exact shape. So what I need to do now is cut this piece so that it will be the correct length. Now, at the moment, that's all overlapped inside there. So what I need to do is at the point there, I need to make a pencil mark because I've got a that piece there ends there. Yep. The side, I mean. The side. The side we know is 15mm, and that has worked. So with my little former, I need to measure up to that side and mark as accurately as I can. Okay, I'm pretty happy that side. This side, yes. Alright, now I can pull that to pieces. I've only loosely put the Tamiya tape on, that thing. Now, my mark then, for the curve, I've got 2 little indentations here. So now I should be able to cut that. This is where your board comes in very handy for doing these sort of things, because my wobbly eyes, especially looking down through iPads and things, if I'd stuck to my pencil marks, they were spot on. So yes, so that's a right angle. So I use those marks on my board all the time. They're not just there for decoration, look pretty. Now I've cut that piece exactly at right angles to my band, and I've got a fresh bit of tape on. Now I'm going to butt join it exactly as we would with the photo etch. So now I have a former that is exactly the same as a photo etch would be. So butt joining there, wrapping around. Okay, so that's what my photo etch would do. And I've got my subtle curve at the front. Am I nice and square? Close enough too for this. Drop it on the model. Yes. And that is going to be perfect. Okay. I don't know how much you can see from up there, probably because of the tape, but it's just in the lip on the front of the bridge. It's just inside the edge at the stern of the bridge, and both sides are just inside as well. And that's what you want. Your railings don't sit, they don't hang over. If anything, it's best to be that tiny bit inside. Okay, in theory, this is exactly what I need now. So I can now peel off my little joiny tape. It's no longer required. And I now have the exact former that I need that tells me how to make that bridge piece. So let's cut that out. So there's our photo etch that we're going to use, and here is our paper former. So let's have a look how it lines up against the photo etch. You're going to need a post where it starts. Okay, there's a post there. Then there's a post there. And a post there. Now this is rare. It's actually lucked out perfectly, because you're always looking for posts. It's nice to have post on the corner. So where the fold is, you have a little post on the corner. So actually that's quite good. We've got a post where it starts, post there, post there. It's so damn close. We've got a post there. Now this is where the problem's going to arise, is the curved bit at the front. It's going to be a little bit longer. So yeah, that we're going to cut a little extra. We might have to cut that little bit of post, this one, this way. We might have to cut that out. But we know this bit of photo etch here, that's going to work. So basically we need a length to about there. So let's cut that free. Now, of course, if you ever watch my videos, we don't cut photo etch on cutting boards because it bounces up and down. And we don't cut photo etch generally these days anyway. Well, we usually use my Xuron cutters, but this is so fine, I think we can do the razor blade trick. So I've made my little pencil mark there, which now I can't see. There it is. So it's just above that little stairwell there. And I'm going to need this one flush. So fine that I'm getting away with this trick. The reason I put the card down, I've explained this in other videos, but now, if you cut on your cutting mat, there's a spring to it. If you try and cut photo etch on the cutting mat, it will bend and distort and go out of shape. Usually we would use a piece of glass or something like that to cut on nice and hard, but I have found the piece of cardboard they give you in the photo etch kits, if you place that on your cutting mat, you can cut off the top of that, and I've had a lot of success with that. So my little mark is right here. Oh, we're fighting with the noise from tractors there. That's Farmer Bob. He's out doing his tractoring, so he's got things to do. So just put up with that. That's life living on the farm. So yeah, so my mark is there. So this is where I need to get to, is here. So I'll do those now because they're so fine. So I'm going to need just that bit extra there. Oh, they must be loading up the cows to market, poor little buggers. You can hear them. You can hear them crying and complaining. Sorry guys, you're going to be McDonald's. Can you see the thing? There it is. Okay, and it's come out and it hasn't distorted. It should not be. It is still straight. I haven't put any excessive bends in it. Alrighty, so I'm now going to get the folding tool out, and I'll probably do this piece with music over. That way you don't hear the swearing. Now for the moment of truth. You've seen me use my wax pencil before. I've waxed on about it often, I'm sure. This is a very handy way of handling fragile things, because if you handle the tweezers, as I have done there, you can break them. But if you're using a wax pencil, you can put them in fairly easily, and often accurately if you don't have an iPad in your face. But anyhow, for the purposes of what we're doing here, I think I can tweak that into place. And do we have rails that fit? Yes, we do. And we've lucked out here, which is a bit unusual, in that the posts actually sit. The posts are actually sitting in the correct spots, which was rather, I hope it's going to be that lucky all the way through. But I think I just picked a lucky one. If you buy dedicated PE for a kit, yes, the posts match exactly the points where the PE is going to turn. And you may have noticed when I was folding, don't fold right on the post. Have the post just sticking outside of the folding tool, just ever so tiny bit, and then fold up. And that means the post will not be distorted. Post will be just outside the fold and up it'll come, and that way the rail will literally go up to the post and the post becomes the fulcrum. Once you've done a few, you'll know what I mean. When you're folding, despite the fact it's razor blades and it's tiny things, there is still that tiny 1/3 or 1/4 millimeter which is part of the fold, and that can be enough to make a piece inaccurate, not fit. You always have to allow for that when you're folding. Anyhow, this piece fits. It's going to be spot on. So that will now get put aside. I'll put down some double-sided tape on what's going to be my painting area, and I will carefully place that on the double-sided tape now. Now you notice we have got some double posting there. That's because we needed the extra. Now, there's a couple of ways we could have got around that, really. We could have just made the square U shape, or the rectangle, right, and cut to the posts. And then we could have made a separate piece here, which I may still do. Could have made a separate piece for the curve where we actually use the two ends which didn't have posts on, and we cut into them equally, if you know what I mean. So basically, instead of having a tiny bit here and a lot there, we would have made those exactly the same. This would have moved this post here to the center, just in front of the binnacle. If you follow that, you understand what I'm talking about. If not, well, don't worry about it. But there are ways of getting around these sort of problems, so we could do that. I may choose to cut that off and form another piece. It would be easier because you've got to form it around something round. You need a roller or something. Often, if they're a perfect curved circle, you can use some sort of round device, a pencil or a paintbrush, something like that, and roll your photo etch around it. But this was sort of just that little half moony bit. Luckily, it matched my tweezers. Anyhow, that's done. But actually, the more I think about it, I may cut the front of that off, and I may create the piece that'll have the rail in the middle, rail either side, and then slightly shorter rails equal. We'll see. It doesn't matter. That would work perfectly, what I've just done. Either way works. Now, the trick with photo etch is gentle, do it once, live with your mistakes. If you're totally buggered it, you're going to have to throw it away, and often you don't have enough material to throw away. So this has got a couple of tiny kinks in it. While the cows were mooing, I was getting a bit distraught. But I'm going to live with it. I'll CO glue that down and gently tap it into position. It'll be fine. I probably can see them, you can't, because I know that I accidentally bumped that one of the cows went, no, I don't want to be a hamburger. Poor things. Anyhow, they're all off to market now. Enough of that. All right, I'm going to continue, and I'll make up all the other rails, and we'll see how it looks. And that's the railing as it would look with the mast in. Quite nice. Now look, I've just noticed the time. I don't know how it happened, but I've waffled on for half an hour and just got one piece of railing done. So look, I'll take a break now, and you can go and have a nap. Or is it the other way around? You'll get a break and I'll have a nap. And I'll get all the rest of the railings done, and we'll come back in the next video, okay? And I'll talk about doing the photo etch stairs and ladders, because you have to incorporate those into the rails. All right, well, that's enough for now. So it's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.